The United States housing market just recorded its lowest number of transactions since 1995. Fewer homes are changing hands today than at any point in the last 30 years, and yet prices are sitting near record highs. That contradiction should not be possible, but here we are. Phoenix is up 59%. Austin is up 61%. Denver is holding firm. Those are not temporary spikes waiting to correct. Based on the data, that is the new floor. Most people watching this are waiting for a crash. The narrative is everywhere. Rates are high, buyers are stretched. The market has to break at some point. But what if it does not? What if prices do not fall, do not correct, and just stay exactly where they are for the next decade, while the window to build middle-class wealth through homeownership quietly closes? That is what we are going to walk through today. If this kind of data-driven analysis helps you plan, hit like. It helps more people find this channel. Let's start with the structural reason prices have a floor. It has everything to do with who owns homes right now and why they will not sell. About 51% of all United States mortgages carry rates below 4%. Roughly 20% are below 3%. If you locked in at 2.75% in 2021 and you sell today, you are not just moving. You are giving up the cheapest money you will ever access and replacing it with a rate that costs more than twice as much. Federal Reserve researchers estimate the average financial penalty of making that trade exceeds $165,000 in lost mortgage value alone. This is not a difficult decision. This is a trap most rational homeowners will not walk into. Now add baby boomers to that equation. They hold the largest share of owned homes in the country, and they have almost no financial reason to downsize. In states like California, selling triggers capital gains tax exposure on appreciation that in many cases runs into six figures. They lose their low-rate mortgage. They lose Proposition 13-style property tax protections that have kept their annual bills artificially low for decades. You would have to offer someone a remarkable deal to give up all three of those things simultaneously. Most will not. The result is a market with active inventory sitting 17% below 2019. A balanced market needs about 6 months of supply. Right now, we are running between 3 and 3.8 months of supply. There simply are not enough homes listed to push prices down, and the people who own those homes have every financial incentive to stay put. But here's where the demand side of this gets complicated. The typical age of a first-time buyer in the United States is now 40, up from 28 in the early 1990s. That delayed demand does not disappear. It stacks, and it competes directly with baby boomers, who now account for 42% of all buyers, with roughly half of older boomers purchasing entirely in cash. A 32-year-old with a pre-approval letter is not on equal footing with a buyer who writes a check. Meanwhile, the cities that were supposed to absorb all this demand are tightening. Research from Wharton and Harvard shows that new housing supply growth across Phoenix, Austin, and Denver has dropped below 1% annually since 2020. If that trend holds, those markets will converge with coastal pricing within 20 years. And construction costs are not helping. Tariffs on steel and aluminum are up 50%, and Canadian lumber is up 45%, adding between $10,000 and $75,000 to the cost of each new home. Builders cannot close the supply gap fast enough to matter at scale, and if rates drop sharply, say to 5%, the pent-up demand sitting on the sidelines will surge before supply can respond. We saw that cycle play out between 2020 and 2022. Based on current data, a fast rate cut could push prices higher before it helps affordability. The cure, if it comes too quickly, may briefly worsen the problem before improving it. The honest forecast is the least exciting one. Prices will move sideways or slightly up for the next 5 to 10 years, while incomes slowly catch up. No crash. just stagnation at a high floor. So if prices are not falling, the question stops being when do I wait and starts being where do I go and what do I do right now? Let us start with the cost of waiting, because it is real and it is measurable. Buying at 40 instead of 30 costs roughly $150,000 in lost lifetime equity from missed appreciation alone. That's not a scare tactic. That's compound math on a decade of price growth you didn't participate in. And it's not just delayed buyers feeling this. 1 in 6 aspiring homeowners has abandoned the idea of owning entirely. Not postponed, abandoned. That's a permanent exit from the primary wealth-building vehicle the American middle class has relied on for 70 years. The threshold you need to hold on to is this. Once your total housing payment, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and a basic maintenance reserve crosses 30% of your gross income, the home stops building wealth and starts draining it. Above that line, you're not climbing the wealth ladder. You're just paying someone else's mortgage or carrying a payment that crowds out everything else in your financial life. Now, Phoenix, Austin, and Denver still offer lower entry prices than coastal metros, but calling them affordable markets at this point is misleading. They are transitional markets. They were the pressure valve for coastal affordability, and that valve is closing. Given what the supply data shows, families treating those cities as permanent bargains are likely to be proven wrong within a decade. The geography of affordability has not disappeared, but it has shifted. Secondary Sunbelt and Midwest markets, places like Huntsville, Alabama, Columbus, Ohio, San Antonio, Texas, and Raleigh, North Carolina, still offer median home prices where a middle-class income can stay under that 30% threshold. They have growing job bases, more moderate property tax structures, and have not yet absorbed the full weight of demand displacement from coastal metros. That window will not stay open indefinitely, but it is open now. There is also a short-term opportunity in new construction that most buyers overlook. Median new home prices are currently near parity with existing home prices, which is historically unusual. Builders are offering rate buydowns to around 4.5%, and the payment difference on a comparable home versus market rate financing runs between $300 and $500 a month. That is real money, and it will not last once rates move lower and builder incentives get pulled back. Rural adjacent markets within 45 to 60 minutes of a mid-size employment hub are worth a hard look for families open to hybrid or remote work. The payment-to-income ratios in those areas are often the only places left where a single median income can comfortably support homeownership without financial stress. So here are the 3 moves that actually matter right now. First, run your real numbers before any offer. Not the number your lender pre-approves you for, but your actual payment, including taxes, insurance, and a maintenance reserve, measured against your gross income. If it clears 30%, the math does not work regardless of what an agent tells you. Second, expand your geography search by 90 miles. Look at secondary markets near your current metro where prices keep you under that threshold on your actual income. Third, if you are buying in the next 12 months, prioritize new construction with builder incentives over existing homes. The rate buydowns are real, the parity window is rare, and it is likely to close. Families who act in the next 2 to 3 years in secondary and transitional markets lock in equity before Sunbelt convergence fully plays out. Families who hold out for a crash that the data says probably will not come spend another decade renting, delaying wealth accumulation by a full financial generation. The window is not closed, but it is narrower than it has ever been. Prices are not falling. The market is frozen at a high floor, and waiting for a crash is itself a financial decision with a real cost attached to it. Expand your geography, run your actual numbers, and look hard at new construction with builder incentives. Those 3 moves are available right now. Which city should we analyze next? Drop it in the comments. And subscribe for more data-driven looks at where affordability actually still exists.